Well, it wasn't so many years ago that it looked as if the West might bomb Iran. In fact, George Bush and Barack Obama both had to prevent Israel from doing just that. But this year, something very different happened. A deal was signed to lift sanctions on Iran in return for its promise not to develop nuclear weapons. Nathaniel Amos Sansom followed these developments.
In a fairly low-key announcement this December, the International Atomic Agency announced that it was drawing a line under the long-running probe into Iran's efforts to develop nuclear weapons. The move came following the landmark deal this year between Iran and international powers to curtail its nuclear program over the coming years, something which has dogged international relations with the country for over a decade and could potentially change the balance of power in the Middle East. Earlier this month, the nuclear watchdog produced a report suggesting that Iran had in fact engaged in activities aimed at developing a nuclear bomb up until 2003, although it found no credible sign of any weapons-related work beyond 2009. Announcing the decision to drop the probe, the Director General of the UN watchdog said that the decision to close its investigation was taken in part to support the deal between Tehran and the major powers, although that didn't mean the end of inspections.
Completion of my assessment is an important step forward, but much work remains to be done. The IAEA will continue to undertake verification work in Iran, but in future, Iran will implement the additional protocol to its Safeguards Agreement with the agency, and we will have powerful extra verification tools at our disposal.
Earlier in 2015, the representatives of the P5+1 group of nations, namely the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, China, as well as Russia, gathered for talks in Lausanne in Switzerland, along with diplomatic teams from the state of Iran. They were there to try and hammer out a framework for a deal that would limit Iran's capability to develop nuclear weapons, in exchange for lifting sanctions that had been imposed on the country and had badly stifled Iran's economy. Following on from the initial Joint Action Plan agreement at the end of 2013, the deadline for the framework was put back twice in 2014, with a final ultimatum for a deal set for June 2015. The details of the sensitive discussions between nations were largely hidden from the media, with updates not given until after the sessions had broken up. A framework for the full nuclear talks was agreed at the 11th hour on April the 2nd, with both sides reconvening in Vienna in June to discuss a final deal. Even before the final agreement was reached, leaders hailed it as a huge diplomatic agreement.
Today, we have taken a decisive step. We have reached solutions on key parameters of a joint comprehensive plan of action. The political determination, the goodwill, and the hard work of all parties made it possible.
After a further 17 days of talks and a further pushing back of the deadline by 4 days, a landmark deal was agreed between both sides on July the 14th. Under the deal, Iran will give up its efforts to develop nuclear weapons for at least a decade, in exchange for a lifting of economic sanctions imposed on it by the international community. The deal was strongly defended by American President Barack Obama, who said it represented leadership by his country.
This deal demonstrates that American diplomacy can bring about real and meaningful change. Change that makes our country and the world safer and more secure. This deal is also in line with a tradition of American leadership. Today, because America negotiated from a position of strength and principle, we have stopped the spread of nuclear weapons in this region. Because of this deal, the international community will be able to verify that the Islamic Republic of Iran will not develop a nuclear weapon.
Amid jubilant scenes of celebration at the deal in the Iranian capital, Tehran, President Hassan Rouhani said that he hoped that the deal would end the mistrust of his country.
در توافق امروز و در این برنامه جامع اقدام مشترک هر 4 هدف حاصل شده. برای ما در بحث اعتماد اجرای این توافق آغاز یک امتحان است. اگر این توافق به دقت و خوبی اجرا شد، قدم به قدم اجرای این توافق می تواند آرام آرام خشت‌های دیوار بی‌اعتمادی را بردارد.
While the agreement was hailed around the world and was the first deal of its sort to be sanctioned by the UN Security Council, it has faced serious opposition internally in both America and Iran. In the days that followed the agreement, members of the Republican-controlled US House of Congress strongly criticized the deal, claiming that it would allow Iran to fund terrorist groups in the Middle East and around the world. These concerns were echoed by the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, who said that the deal did not change what he saw as the existential threat posed by Iran to his country. Over the summer, President Obama worked to shore up support for the deal among members of Congress for his Democratic Party to avoid Republican moves to block the deal and increase the demands made on Iran. In September, the Obama administration obtained the minimum number of senators needed to avoid a challenge by the Republicans to implement the deal. In the following month, the Parliament of Iran voted by 121 votes to 59 to also accept the agreement. Many members of the Majlis, as well as wider conservative groups in the country, were strongly opposed to the agreement, and the decisive vote in favor was seen as the defeat for those in the country who wanted to take a tougher line on the United States. The deal will now begin to be implemented in the final weeks of the year, as well as over the first month of 2016. Iran's envoy to the International Atomic Agency said that the country would be ready to implement the deal within the final months of 2015.
Iran has already started some preparatory work for the implementation of its voluntary measures, nuclear-related voluntary measures, and we are intending to complete this process within 2 to 3 weeks.
However, despite the enormous compromises and progress made by both sides, there is still much that needs to be done to make sure that the historic agreement in July is properly carried through in the face of deep cynicism domestically and around the world. Nathaniel Emersansam, The Report.